Yo, that's a hype video.
Also, hi Kyberians. It's time for another AMA session. I'm D from the community team of KyberSwap. So our live stream today, we have some giveaway for the viewer, and I can wait to share right now with you guys. And so we'll be giving to five winners who submit their question on Twitter with $100 in KNC before this live stream. And during this live stream, if you add a question on YouTube using the format Telegram username plus your question, you'll be considered to win one of five prizes worth $20 each for each winner during the broadcast. And lastly, to reward those who take part in our Learn to Earn activity on Discord, we will apply $100 in KNC more after the live stream. So don't miss it. To participate, let's join us on Discord. And okay, once again, welcome. And I'm glad to have you all with us today. And I'd like to start off with an elevator pitch for the people that haven't heard of KyberSwap before. KyberSwap is a decentralized exchange uh, and a DEX aggregator and liquidity protocol that achieve the best rate for crypto trader through liquidity aggregation and while also providing capital efficient for and higher return for liquidity provider. This is designed to provide restrictionless crypto liquidity with extremely high flexibility. And streaming with me today from KyberSwap is Imran. He is the head of marketing, and from QiDao is Kila. Sorry.
All good.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show, guys. And how you
Hey,
guys doing?
I'm doing
awesome.
wonderful, man. I'm doing great.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Do you want to do a quick intro to yourself, just in case people are not familiar? Uh, Maybe
Yeah,
Imran, you
Kila
can
should
go
go.
first. Yes.
I think Kila should go first as a guest.
All right, hey everybody. I'm Keela with QiDao. I'm sure we'll get into what QiDao is here shortly during the AMA. Got my intro into crypto actually as an exotic dancer. So I was an exotic dancer, and my clients always wanted to. I had a couple clients that wanted to pay in crypto, and so I thought, why not? It's an extra way of earning money. So had a client set me up with my MetaMask, so they could pay in like BTC and Ethereum, and that was kind of my introduction into the crypto scene.
I can't possibly top that. But I'll try. So my name's Imran. I'm the head of marketing for KyberSwap. Actually, I'm just really happy to have Keela and Qidao here today. So I think for us, Qidao is a very important partner in our ecosystem strategy. I think there's tons that we're doing together and probably tons more that we can be doing. Personally, I'm a DeFi maxi, not as exotic, but my interests mainly lie in helping everyone, including myself, my children, ordinary people like you and I, to be able to have full access, control, and autonomy of our finances, and that's really why I'm here. So just excited to have the AMA today.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, you both. And absolutely. But before jumping into the question, please let me have a disclaimer. It's also important to note that everything we discuss here is solely for informative purpose and do not represent investing or financial advice. And we strongly recommend that you guys, before making any investing decision, you do all your own research and the thought and opinions of us here, not represent on the behalf of the DAOs. Okay, so let's okay. So I think let's dive in right into the question.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, all right. So that's the first question for uh for Kila is what cool idea you have for the community members, such as how they utilize QiDao for their own benefit and to gain an advantage over the entire crypto ecosystem or
Yes,
DeFi in the space.
perfect. I think maybe let me start with what is QiDao in the first place. So for those of you who don't know what QiDao is, We are a protocol that allows you to kind of get more out of your crypto. So what we allow you to do is take loans against your crypto as collateral. These loans are at 0% interest, and you basically can take these crypto, deposit it into a vault, and then borrow stable coins against that crypto. And again, you're doing this at 0% interest. So what does that really allow you to do? It allows you to get the value out of your assets without actually having to sell them. So for example, a lot of you watching are probably very high on KyberSwap and what KyberSwap is able to do in the future. And so probably very bullish on the native token, right? KNC. May have a lot of it. You might not want to sell it, but you still want to be able to use its value because it actually has some type of value. And so we allow you to take that KNC, deposit it into a vault, and it's a vault that you own. It's a vault that only you control. We do not touch anything at all. It's non-custodial. And then against the value of that KNC, you can borrow stable coins, and our stable coin is MAI. What are you able to do with that stable coin? It's really whatever you want. It's your stable coin, so you can go and you can sell it. You can swap it for more KNC. You can go and farm with it on a bunch of different farms that we have. I think there's probably going to be tons of questions kind of further on where I can get a little bit deeper into different chains that we're on that we also partner on. But what cool ideas do we have for community members to utilize us? We have over 70 different collaterals that you can use on QiDao. So if there are assets, or if there are, just any crypto that you want to sit on and hold during this market, you can come over to QiDao, still be able to use its value without having to spend it. I think what's like one story I like to maybe share with people is sometimes the real world value of things like this. Like we had one of our users, and they were living in kind of India, where inflation may be a little bit higher, and so they saw crypto as a way of saving money, or like a little bit of their savings, right? Because they didn't want to keep it in their native like fiat currency. So they would save up crypto, this and that, and then all of a sudden they had a unexpected medical expense. They didn't want to have to sell their crypto to pay off the medical expense, because then they're basically just like spending all of their savings. So what they did was they took that crypto, borrowed stable coins against it, off ramped it, and then paid their medical expense with the stable coins that they minted. And again, they're doing it at 0% interest, so they're not really accruing any fees, no matter how long they hold it. So these are like some different cool ways that you might be able to use QiDao for your benefit.
Awesome. Thanks, thank you. Brett, do you have any take on this?
For me, so I think the excitement that I have for the QiDao as well as KyberSwap partnership, right, is that I think we both have similar objectives. One is that we want to really deepen DeFi acquisition and usage in the whole ecosystem. And we do it in different ways, right? But in very complementary ways, right? So
Right.
QiDao is a lending protocol where you can go to the vaults, you take collateral such as KNC, you mint out the MAI, and then you can go to KyberSwap after, and then you can do whatever you want with the assets that you have, right? So for example, as Kila has said, maybe have certain exposure to certain assets. It might be your ETH or Matic, or it might be KNC. You can lock them up in the vault, you can mint the MAI, and then you can go to KyberSwap, and with our liquidity mining campaign, you can actually farm and earn yield on it. And I think what really results from here is some very interesting and beautiful yield loops. So we call it a virtuous cycle, or some people call it a degen yield loop, where you can essentially hold your token, mint more tokens, mine it, get the yield, and then you can reinvest it again. And I think that's pretty interesting. I think this is something that anyone in DeFi or DGens in general would be looking for, right? So how do I earn more in a safe way?
Correct.
And I think if you look at what QiDao is doing with their collateralized my token, I think it's very important that if you have a stable coin, it's stable, that it can last any sort of shocks to the market. And from what I know, it's a very safe token and asset. Um, and with our farms together, the whole point is to be able to let people earn through the bear, right?
Correct.
And not cave in to liquidate just because of any undue pressures, right? So I think what we're providing here is the ability to withstand a lot of these pressures, to farm through the bear, and even do some exciting things with your assets while being exposed to the asset price upsides that you are really interested in. And I think we're already doing quite a bit of stuff on this front, from hosting the liquidity together, from having the KNC vault on QiDao, from even being able now to bridge my on KyberSwap with using our bridge function, which we integrated multi-chain. The most recently, in fact, just of right now, we've reduced the bridging fee from 0.1% to 0.02%. And that means if you're bridging 5,000 MAI on KyberSwap now, it only costs 1 MAI to bridge, and it usually costs a lot more. It used to be minimum 10 MAI in terms of fees. And I think the whole point is to have a lot of benefits to users, regardless of what you're trying to do with the assets. And I think it's pretty cool what we're doing together.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, whether you want to kind of go with a little bit more risky strategies or really kind of safe strategies, you really have the option of doing whatever you want. I mean, if you wanted to get some single stake yield, basically on an asset like, for example, KNC, you want to make sure that you keep that upside. You can deposit the KNC, you mint my, and you can just go into stable farms. There's a ton of my USDC farms that you can hop in, getting really great yield, and then because it's in stables, you always have the my to be able, or the stables to be able to pay back your loan if the price of your asset drops a little bit or whatever. You have that you have the luxury of it being in stables. Yeah, and I really love kind of what you were saying about kind of progressing the space within DeFi. With my is very decentralized. It's a decentralized stablecoin, so you mint it, it's yours. None of the stuff like, for example, USDC or USDT, where we would be able to blacklist you or something along those lines from using it, which is very important for us. Which is also why we don't take centralized assets as collateral. And then also, very good point that you pointed out, is that my is over collateralized. There are a lot of different types of stable coins out there. You have your centralized ones like USDC, USDT, and then you have like your over collateralized ones like DAI, my, MEM, LUSD. And then, of course, maybe you have some riskier ones, which are algo ones. But yeah, we're over collateralized, which has kind of proven the test of time.
Okay, cool. So thank you, and Imran, for your input. And let's move on to the second question, which I believe that you guys have already answered some of the answers. Okay, so when user deposits KNC to borrow my on QiDao, what benefit and how many layers of benefit can they get? I think that's okay. We can emphasize this again, so for the user can hear stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So when when you deposit KNC and you borrow my, again, you're not incurring any interest because it's 0% interest on the loans. Also, what is pretty cool is that every 2 weeks there is a gauge that happens. There is a gauge that happens where we or the community, they get to vote on which collaterals within our ecosystem kind of get borrowing incentives. And what are borrowing incentives? Borrowing incentives are, we basically pay you to borrow my. And if I'm not mistaken, KNC is a fan favorite within our community, and so oftentimes gets borrowing incentives. So more than just borrowing my at 0% interest, oftentimes the people who are borrowing against KNC, they get paid to do it, which is pretty cool. I do say that it's, again, the rates are not consistent because, again, every 2 weeks it's a gauge that our community votes on. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And like we've already reiterated, there's a ton of farms on a bunch of chains that we're partnered on. So you have Polygon, you've got Optimism, you have Arbitrum coming soon. There's a bunch.
Yeah, so just to jump on, right? So firstly, I took advantage of getting paid to borrow. So I really enjoyed that that
Pretty
offer.
sweet.
It is very sweet because the next thing that someone could do is, let's say, go to KyberSwap.com, you go to the farms, and let's say you look at Polygon chain today, and you can see some of the farms today, such as KNC My or Stigmatic My farms that we have. And some of these are having APRs as high as 71%, 67%. So where does these APRs come from? They come from two sources, right? One is from liquidity pool fees, which is the fees generated from the trading volume that occurs via this liquidity pools. And then the second thing is from KyberSwap and QiDao actually putting in farming incentives, farming rewards for people who deposit liquidity into pool and then stake into the farms, right? So if you put all of this together, where you're able to borrow and get rewarded for it, enter the liquidity pool, earn trading fees, and then farm and earn farming rewards, what essentially happens in this just single instance is that you're actually getting three sources of income based on one loop of action. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also you guys do a fantastic job of like generating trading fees and whatnot, and just volume in general. We work with a lot of different dexes, and have to say that KyberSwap is honestly one of the best at generating some volume. Well done.
Thanks, man. That's called capital efficiency.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It makes a big difference for projects like ours. I mean, we want to make sure that Mai has a lot of volume, and I mean it's important because for like Chainlink oracles and everything like that, like for a stable coin to be strong, they look at volume as one of the metrics of being a strong stable coin. And so, yeah, that's very helpful for us. So, you guys keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think for us, like that's super important to hear from a partner like you, because the whole goal is to make sure that you guys are happy with the liquidity you host, right? Is the whole point is not to have dead TVL. The point is to have TVL that's very effective and very efficient in producing the volume you need, as well as providing people, the users, what they need, right? So there's kind of like two contradicting forces. One is the people who come into trade and say, I want the best rate possible, the lowest rate possible, and then the LPs that say, I want the highest APRs possible. And for us, it's just a very a constant iteration of trying to find and optimize to maximize the needs of all these stakeholders. But yeah, we're doing our best, and it's very cool to see that it's paying off in some ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've moved a lot of our incentives from, for example, Curve over to Kyber because, again, it's just providing. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times people think, okay, stable coins, you have to go with Curve and whatnot, but no, you guys have been taking it up a notch.
Very cool.
Okay, very cool. So About this stablecoin, I think for the topic, we're not really like deep dive into the stablecoin. And for the next question, uh, we have is also for the user-centric question. So user can test out different DeFi tactics on QiDao and KyberSwap to increase their benefits they earn. What tactic can you suggest for us? Uh, Please, Imran, can you go ahead first?
Right. So I think like what Hila has mentioned before, there's a bunch of farms. So what I would look at, and again, none of this is financial advice. I could just share what I have done before. Is I've taken my KNC, I go into the vault in QiDao protocol. I mint out some Mai. I over collateralize my loan. I get some Mai, and then I look for a farm that I am happy to put in some liquidity to and earn fees, right? So, for example, there are some farms on Polygon chain right now. If I were to look at it, you have your KNC Mai, or you have your Matic and Mai, or you might have a stable coin farm like USDC and Mai. So I think it depends on the assets that you want to have exposure to, the risk that you want to take. So, for example, if I really believe that I wanted to be as risk free as possible, and I wanted to hold something as stable as possible, maybe I would look at a USDC My pool and earn that 7.89% APR on the farm. And if I'm doing that and then I'm getting paid to borrow for stable coins while holding on and getting exposure to my underlying KNC asset long term, I think that's a very good deal, right? Especially considering it's a very, very brutal and long bear market right now. So I think that's one way to look at it. But I think looking at the pools and looking at the various chains and even the various protocols that you could use any of the assets on, I think that's really no end to the various degen ways that one could slice and dice it. In fact, I think there's a lot of commenters and degen people in the chats talking about their own observations and questions. And I would really invite everyone to share your own ideas and share your own thoughts as well, because certainly there isn't only one way. Hila?
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I will mention is that, again, just because you mint my on Polygon doesn't mean you need to stay on Polygon. You can take your my, you can bridge it wherever you want. My is one of the most cross chain assets within DeFi, and so you can bridge it to over 20 different chains if you wanted to. And so right now we only have like you can mint my against KNC on Polygon, but if you wanted to mint my against other assets such as ETH or BTC or even interest bearing collaterals, you can do that, which is also really cool because if you're being able to mint my against interest bearing collaterals and you're not being paid or you're not having to pay interest on it, it's a pretty sweet deal. And then you take that my and just find the best farm across any of those chains. Likely you're going to be finding the KyberSwap farms, and yeah, throw your money in.
Yes, I would have to agree with Imran that surviving in the bear crypto market like this can be very difficult. But there are some steps that you can stack, right, to have increase your chance of surviving.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. For the next question. So far we know that the QiDao protocol is designed to allow user to extract value out of their crypto assets. So what are the other use cases that we didn't know? I think this question is for Kila, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll take this one. I mean, that's its core. At its core, that's what like we're there for. So to extract value out of your crypto assets, and then what you do with it, that is up to you. We try and partner with as many people as we can to give more and more use cases for so you have farming use cases. You've got, you can use as collateral on a lot of other lending markets. um, for example, if you wanted to short the euro or something along those lines, you've got as collateral in places where you can then borrow a a version of the euro, and if the euro goes down, then that's
Mm.
if you borrow it and you sell it for stables, if the euro goes down, well, now you can repay your loan with the spread. There's a ton of different opportunities for you to use and we keep trying to grow that. Even Aave has added as collateral, and so you have like another really great and safe place to throw your Mai. So even if you wanted to, um, like if you saw an opportunity for farming, say DAI or DAI USDC or USDC USDT pool on KyberSwap, you can go to Aave, you can deposit it, you can deposit your Mai as collateral, you can borrow USDC or USDT or DAI or something along those lines, and then go go deposit your money into a Kyber pool of whatever stable you want. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different things that you can use with. I think we've gone over a ton of it, but yeah, that's the main and the core product that we have is really just to extract the value out of your crypto assets, without you having to lose it or sell it.
Cool. So there's so many more use cases that can do with mod, especially QiDao. Next one. So when using QiDao, what are the risks associated with borrowing that users should keep in mind?
Yeah,
And please also
so
share your suggestion for managing the rate and risk.
yeah, for sure. So with any lending protocol within the DeFi space, uh, or for any healthy lending protocol, you need to have liquidations to make sure that your loans are always over collateralized. So a lot of times when people hear the word liquidations, they get a little bit worried. But liquidations are actually a really great thing, and they keep the entire ecosystem very healthy. Um, and so for a protocol like ours, we have different kind of risk. We do different risk analyses on all of our collaterals, and so some of them will have higher loan to value ratios that you can borrow against. Some have lower ones, and so we just you want to make sure that you are not borrowing at too close to the liquidation line. um, and because if you're borrowing too close to the liquidation line, if the price of your asset drops a little bit, then you could be partially liquidated. And what partially liquidated means is somebody comes in, they pay back half of your loan, and then they take the equivalent amount of what they paid your loan plus a 10% profit. And so at the end of the day, what you're really hit with is like a 6% penalty, but you do lose some of your collateral in the process, but half of your loan is repaid, which you don't have to repay that back. And that liquidation now brings your vault healthy again, to where it's over collateralized, very healthily over collateralized, and you shouldn't have any issues. And so for us, we try and encourage people to stay within a healthy range above like the minimum collateral to debt ratio, which is why our vault incentives, like the borrowing incentives we talked about, they kick in at a specific range. So it's not if you borrow the maximum you will get the vault incentives. No, if you have to keep a collateral to debt ratio at least 25% over what the minimum collateral to debt ratio is, and between I think it's 125 percent. So like you have to be between 25% over and 125% over to be able to be in the range for the vault incentives.
So Kila, that actually differs for each vault. Is that right? The minimum collateral ratio.
Yeah, it's different for each vault. So yeah, we actually have, which I think really unique, and it's something that we're really proud of. We have a risk committee within the QiDao ecosystem, and so it's a committee that goes in and they do a lot of research into how liquid a asset is, what the risk profile is, and from there we assign it basically a grade, like it is a, A grade, B grade, C, B plus, whatever it may be. And from there, we're able to determine what a good collateral to debt ratio or a good minimum collateral to debt ratio is. And so again, that will be determined by how liquid an asset is on chain, what its volume is on chain, how long it's been around. Are there like only a few really large holders of this token versus like, is it pretty decentralized? You can see our entire risk, a risk dashboard at my.watch if you're interested. If you're a nerd and you're really interested in seeing those things, yeah, my.watch is where you can find those.
Yeah, so like I was from what I know, our KNC vault is 140% minimum collateral to debt ratio.
Correct.
And I was like, even when I do that, I take the more conservative route. Like I do like maybe 3x, not even 140, because you just have to make sure that for any volatility you are really covered, right? So yeah, so I
Correct.
think for anyone listening, they really need to do some homework on volatility and hygiene around lending protocols, and just really don't find yourself on the wrong side of liquidations, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Might not watch, right? So for those who are interested in watching closely on QiDao risk metrics, uh, turn into my.watch. Awesome. Thanks, Kila.
For sure.
And yes, and I think we will have the last question from us. Can you share more about the key focus and future plan from QiDao?
Yeah. I think for a lot of protocols, especially in this type of market, key focuses are, making sure that the protocol is running properly, making sure that, you're generating revenue, and it's not, we're not just, throwing out tokens, to bring people in, but really drive real value to the ecosystem. And so that's going to be our main focus. And so, increasing our revenue. We are a big proponent of partnerships, and do what you do really well, and then let your partners do what they do really well. Like for us, we do lending very well, and then like you guys do, you do what you do very well. And so we're not the type of protocol that's going to try and, replicate something that we're not experts in. We much rather partner with people. So we're going to continue to partner with folks such as yourselves. Other things is really focus on making sure that we're always solvent, which is again the piece of having that risk committee and always monitoring our assets on chain. And then deepening the liquidity for because the deeper we can have liquidity for and a more stable peg, then the more we're able to allow people to borrow larger amounts. And when people are able to borrow larger amounts, then we can start seeing, bigger fish kind of come into our pond.
Cool. Okay, so I think that's all question from KyberSwap, and then we have already prepared some question on Twitter from the user, directly from the user,
Yeah.
and let's move on. Let's dive into. Okay, so the first question from Ruhel 00786. As I understand, QiDao protocol is a lending platform. So that is mean Might will implement collateral on its borrow lending service. What is the process of borrowing and lending in QiDao?
For the first part of the question, I'm not sure if I understand it too much. So it doesn't mean my will implement collateral on its borrow lending services. I'm not sure exactly what that means. If do you guys get it? I'm not sure. But I can answer the second part. What is the
Okay.
process? Yeah, what does the borrowing process look like? It's very simple. You have your assets. You can go to my.finance. Once you're in my.finance, just click into the dApp. You're able to look at all of the different vaults that we have. You click on create a vault. Once you've created that vault, it's very simple. You've got a couple different options. Once you've created it, you just deposit in the collateral of your choosing. Then you just click to kind of borrow my. You have there's a lot of information within the vault page, so it will tell you kind of what the liquidation price is going to be if if the price of the asset drops to a certain area, you could get liquidated. So you can manage how much you're borrowing pretty easily. And then you just click the borrow button, and now you've borrowed my. If you want to repay, go to that same page. You have the little repay button. You decide how much you want to repay, and then you repay. I I I have been saying again that there is 0% interest on the loans. When you do, however that's said, when you do repay, you do pay a 0.5% on the amount that you're repaying at that time. So, but that's you know that's you can hold the loan for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. At the end of the day, you're still paying just the 0.5% on that loan.
Awesome. Okay, sorry for just to get back a little bit to the plan and future goal, because we missed a little bit, and I'm sure that our community would love to hear more about KyberSwap as well. And let's hear from Imran about KyberSwap plan. And can you reveal something to us?
Sure. So I think if you look at what KyberSwap has been doing this year, we've been very furiously and head down building, shipping, building the ecosystem partnerships, including with our partners like QiDao, Lido Finance, the various chains. So you could see us this year really building all the chain integration, our bridge integration, our on-ramp integration, really to build out what we can consider or build towards a central exchange-like function while maintaining decentralized principles, right? So I think one thing that's super important to note during this whole period of Black Swan events, of centralization failures, is that DeFi has been working exactly as planned, right?
Amen.
Amen to that, right? People are getting paid, the LPs are getting paid, the creditors are getting paid.
Yes.
It's the ones that are locked up in the centralized platforms that are not, right? And so I think I think it's very clear that DeFi is a safe haven. In fact, for us, you could see that KyberSwap was hitting all-time highs in TVL and volume even during the month that FTX was failing. So I think that speaks volumes to what we are really trying to do and trying to build here. I think what's next is you could really look at all the functions that you'll be familiar with on a central exchange, from your limit orders to perpetuals, as things that we would be looking to roll out soon. I think with partners like QiDao, we're always looking at ways that users can really earn through the bear, trade smarter during the bear, save every single dollar through the bear. So that really looks like us being probably one of the best and most efficient aggregators out there when you're swapping. So, for example, DeFi Llama, they just released a token liquidity tool where you can look at, let's say, Ethereum token on ETH chain and look at the various routes, and you can confirm for yourself that KyberSwap's aggregator is probably the best rates in terms of most of the tokens that you're looking at on most of the tools. Then you have the pools, which provides partners like QiDao a great infrastructure and capital efficiency, as well as earning potential for our users. And we're putting in a lot of effort to make sure that the partnerships are screened well, well thought out, well planned, sustainable, so that we're here for the long run, right? So it's very similar to how QiDao has their is it weekly or fortnightly gauge, a community gauge. We look at our farming rewards on a monthly cycle. It doesn't mean that the farms end after a month, but we always calibrate it after a month based on market data, feedback, volume, and because the market changes and it's so dynamic, right? So we're not just here to irresponsibly throw out tokens and assets at the market. Where we're here to really look at things and be efficient and optimal. So I think that's really what we're really looking at, right? Being efficient, providing the best benefits for the users, really building out the ecosystem partnerships, as well as really doing the best to be to our goal is to really be able to take the place of being the only exchange you ever need, decentralized or otherwise. And I think we are not there yet, but I think the goal is to be there very soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing some of the. I don't know if it's alpha that you're sharing, or if you've shared it with your community before, but
No,
yeah.
some of them is deliberate drips. Yeah.
Yes, it's awesome to hear from both of the project, because I think the partnership between KyberSwap and QiDao is a great example of how the true project can come together to benefit the broader ecosystem, the ecosystem in a whole, and by working together. And
Yeah,
both KyberSwap and QiDao are we can able to offer user like more seamless experience when leveraging their access. And yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think that's it.
like, to be honest, we're still like incredibly early. Like like after all of this, like I think many people feel jaded somehow, but we are
yeah,
actually still incredibly early, right? And that means that there's still so much more to go as an industry.
correct.
But that also means that anyone that's here to stay really needs to be building those partnerships very well, really building those sustainable paths very well, and really leaning into their community and building more bridges to the community even more. And then that's precisely why we work with partners like QiDao.
Yeah, correct. And I think we honestly needed what had happened to like FTX and all those centralized entities, um, because what crypto was created for in at its core was, to have more transparency, to kind of get away from the middleman. And then I think it's, what happened with FTX just showed why DeFi is a necessary option. You should always have the option of controlling your own, money and funds and whatever. Um, and yeah, that's why DeFi is such a beautiful thing, at least in my eyes. I mean, there's tons of different examples of, why DeFi is beautiful. I mean, you can see there's stories of people in people in the Middle East having to rob their own bank just to withdraw their money, right? That should never be the case. You should never have to rob a bank to get access to your own money. And so that's what DeFi really provides. And I think partnerships like this will just help you know help the speed of adoption grow much faster. um and I mean, we are super. If you ask anyone within the QiDao team, like we love the KyberSwap team. You guys are like always responsive, always awake. I don't know. Do you guys even sleep? Yeah, you guys are cool.
Yeah, it's a sad story actually, and DeFi is a beautiful thing for sure
Yeah,
because it had a potential to open up the world of finance to everyone, regardless of their geographical location or financial resources, as long as
correct,
they have the internet connection.
correct. And I think you guys are doing fantastic job, and also from the sounds of where you guys want to go in the future is, you know, being that you really don't need any kind of centralized solution if you've got Kyber and all these other things. There's not really need for it. I think what lured a lot of people in was the ease of access, fancy UIs and all that kind of good thing. But as we grow, yeah, you won't need any of these
And
central things
the lessons will repeat themselves again until we really learn, right? Like
for
the
sure.
Mt.
Yes.
lessons and the quadriga lessons and and the so on and so forth. And I think these will happen again and again until we really learn. Yeah, let's move
Okay.
on.
Let's move on. Okay. So let's have the next question from user on tier. What mechanism exists to ensure that Mike can stay at the $1 bet? The anchor 1% static fee ensure it doesn't fall below 1.99%, 99 cent, as long as there is USDC in the swap. Question asked by Jeffrey BJ.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple of different mechanisms that we use to make sure that my peg is strong. Um, so the biggest thing is Maya's always over collateralized. So there's always more collateral backing Maya than there is Mai out there. And so for anyone who is borrowing Mai, if they see Mai dropping to like say 95 cents, if Mai drops to 90 cents, 80 cents, it's an incentive for them to start buying up that Mai to be paying off their loan at such a steep rate. I'm not saying that Mai is going to drop to 80 cents, but like if you had a loan in Mai and you saw you could pay it back at 5% cheaper, 10% cheaper, whatever, you're going to do it. And so that helps. By if Mai drops, people start buying it up to repay their loans. Um, and so that is one way that we help maintain the peg. Another big thing that we do to help with the peg is our debt ceilings. So we don't allow just anyone to come in there and borrow tons of my at one given time and then dump it onto the market. If we did that, well, then you might see big big dips in the peg. If somebody comes in, they borrow say 10 million my and dumps it all on the market, yeah, that's not great for your peg. Um, but so we have our debt ceilings, which kind of cap the amount of MI that people can borrow against certain assets at any given time. As we deepen our liquidity with partners like you guys and everything like that, the amount of debt ceiling that we're able to have will increase over time and everything like that, and our peg will get more resilient with with cells. Um, but yeah, debt ceiling is one of those mechanisms, and then another one to make sure that the opposite end, if my starts going above $1, we have a bunch of different things that we can open up to help drive that price down. For example, one of them is our interest bearing stables as collaterals. So we allow people to borrow my against like interest bearing stables. So one, those are very stable assets that are incurring or that are generating some interest. And so what people tend to do with that is they tend to lever those quite heavily. And because those have very low collateral to debt ratios, you can you can do a lot of loops. And so when people are doing a lot of loops, they're selling my, and so that will help bring my down if it is above the $1.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, we kind of went that route with the interest bearing stables like interest bearing DAI and whatnot over the anchor with USDC, like swapping USDC, because the thing is we didn't want my to be backed too heavily by USDC. So right now we don't have any, like we don't have my being backed by any USDC from the anchor, because we did see what kind of happened with DAI, and like DAI is heavily backed by USDC, which, I mean, yeah, it helps them maintain a very stable peg and whatnot. But now you have the issue of you're backed largely by a centralized stablecoin, which isn't something we wanted to do.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Next question from ABCCC. Do user need to pay any fee when participating in borrowing on QiDao and adding LB to KyberSwap? Can bridge the borrow more to join farming on other chains, optimism or AVAX? So I
Yeah,
think
absolutely. So there's not going to be any fee at the borrowing part of GDAO. So you can borrow it completely like free of any fees. It's on the repayment there will be a fee. So at the front end, no borrowing fee, no interest. You can hold the loan as long as you want. Again, with 0% interest. When you do repay, then you're paying a 0.5% of the amount that you borrowed.
okay. So if just curious from so recently there's a thing that they say like if you're not paying for the product, you're the product. Is this a thing applied for? Is that thing applied for QiDao?
No, I mean, like you're still paying for the products. You're just paying for it at a
At
different
the
point.
end, right?
Instead of paying for it at the front, you're gonna be paying for it kind of at the end. It's not. I mean, it's also not like the biggest fee in the world. It's 0.5%, which, I mean, I encourage you, or I like try and find better rates out there. I think it'll be hard to come up with anything better than that. We do have other ways of generating revenue and all that kind of stuff as a protocol, and we've done fairly well. Also, the thing is with a lot of volatility in the market, yeah, you have a lot of people repaying their debt because if their collateral drops in value, they need to repay some of their debt to um, make sure that they're safe from liquidations, or they either that or they put in more assets. But a lot of times people will be repaying, and so you have this constant cycle of people minting and then repaying, minting and repaying. We do have on some of our farms on our site, there's like a small fee for that one, but um, yeah, just it's no fee for the borrowing side at the
Okay.
borrowing piece.
Okay.
It's with the repayment that you're incurring a fee.
Okay. Okay. So before we moving on to the next part, which is a question from people that asking right now on YouTube. So Ibra, do you want to give any input on the question?
No real inputs here. When you're adding the LP to KyberSwap, it's minimal fees. It's all the gas fees. If you're doing that on a chain like Polygon, the gas fees are really low. So the upsides are still very viable and very high. The only fee that we would charge would be a small fee for the liquidity pool management. and yeah, it's a very small percent as well. So I think so I think that should answer the question, and we can move on to the next one.
Cool. Okay. So the next question from Tony Starr. What benefit do you offer to investors for holding your token in the long term? Will there be any passive income models provided by QiDao protocol platform through staking and farm?
Yeah. So when it comes to our Chi token, so that's our governance token. It's QI. You do have the option of kind of boosting it or staking it. If you stake it, you can stake it for up to 4 years. By doing so, you do get some of the revenue, protocol revenue, that will be shared with you, as well as you get voting rights. Um, and so these voting things, or these voting rights, you can vote on all of our proposals. We have, I mean, within the DeFi ecosystem, I think we have probably more proposals than most protocols. I think we're at over 170 170 proposals. Um, and again, bi-weekly, we have the gauges, which you can vote on which collaterals you want to see borrowing incentives. So yeah, there's quite a bit that you'd be able to do with Chi, and so yeah, go ahead and take a peek at it. It's QI.
Sorry,
Yeah.
on mute. Cool. So the question currently, I see KyberSwap support 14 chain, and on QiDao, people can borrow mine by deposit KNC on Polygon. I don't use Polygon. Do you have any plan to expand more chains? So this is the last question on Twitter.
So so technically you can mint my on over 10 different chains right now. It's just depending on the collaterals that you want to be minting against. Right now for KNC, yes, it's only on Polygon right now. We're open to adding it on different chains. You could be able to mint it on different chains as well. We would just have to look at the on-chain liquidity and all that kind of stuff. We'll do the risk analysis for that chain, because same asset on different chains have different risks associated. I don't want people to think that if you just add it on one chain, it it gets the same risk profile as other ones. We look at how deep that liquidity is on that chain. Um, and so yeah, we could absolutely add it on other ones, but I think before doing that, we also just want to make it as easy as possible. And this are some things that we're going to be working on as well, to allow people to, you know, deposit, for example, deposit on one chain and be able to mint on a different one. So like maybe you can deposit on Polygon, but then mint on, Optimism or something along those lines. So those are things that are kind of working in the background.
And as of right now, you can still bridge it with
Correct.
very low cost on KyberSwap as well, right? So you could mint it on the Polygon chain, you can bring the MI over, and then you can bridge it using KyberSwap and then participate in the farm or any pool that you like on KyberSwap, on any chains on KyberSwap, really.
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's the last question on Twitter, and we'll have. I think we can wait a little bit around. Oh, I think we have like in the meantime. Okay. Uh, so this is the question from YouTube, and the okay, the first question.
Yeah.
There are many landing projects. What would be the advantage for user to use QiDao, Mir
Yeah.
for 22? Okay.
Yeah, so there's even a couple different lending protocols. I think some of our advantages are, again, the 70 different collaterals that you can borrow against. We have interest bearing collaterals that you can borrow against. The 0% interest is a pretty sweet thing, which Not many lending protocols will allow you to borrow at 0% interest. Certain assets, you get paid basically to borrow against. We are we're up there, if not like at the top in terms of risk, like risk analyses for collaterals and everything like that. So we take risk very seriously. All of our assets all of our assets have Chainlink oracles, so we don't just add any old assets. It has to be assets that are have been around for a while and kind of hit the Chainlink oracle requirements. I don't know if that sound is on my end. Or...
Sure, thanks. Yes, I think risk is like the most important things, not only on QiDao but any project. But I believe that QiDao take it seriously with all the my dot watch again for the reminder. Okay, next one. Any plan for developing cell-based loan protocol where interest from block collateral pays off the balance of borrowed over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some things in the plan. We have a lot of cool things that we want to kind of push out, which would make things easier for the users. Kind of a couple of things are kind of helping maintain specific collateral to debt ratios. For example, like it will be able to, for example, at a click of a button, you'll be able to borrow my that might be able to go into, for example, KyberSwap farm, and it will kind of help manage your collateral to debt ratio. Or if it drops below a certain range, it can pull some of that MI back and pay off your loan. Or if if it's getting outside of this range on the upper end, borrow more MI and deposit it into a farm. Self-repaying loans are also one of those things that we're working towards. We are a relatively small team, and so there's there's those constraints, and so we push a lot of things out very quickly. But then a lot of those things that we push out, we look at it internally and just make sure that the ROI, we basically rank things based off of like the return on investment for our users. And so some of those things are in the works, just depending on where they fall in the ROI kind of rankings. That's where they'll come out.
Sure. Yeah. The question: how safe and easy it is to earn passive income in my finance? Also, how are your APY rate compared to your competitors?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to earn passive income, I would say. On my finance, it again, process simple: deposit collateral, take that collateral, take the deposit collateral, borrow take that go find a really good farm, plenty of them over there on KyberSwap, deposit that along with some USDC, and you're earning really safe yields. How are your APY rates compared to our competitors? In terms of like for the farms, it's quite enticing. Like for the farms, usually you'll probably find really nice APYs on those farms. If you're talking about rates in terms of the lending aspect, we're quite a bit better than our competitors in that regard.
Yeah. So sure, I think my finance or offer variety way to earn passive income, and I think for the APY rates compared to those offered by competitors is Um, yeah. Okay, next question. UK David. I see KyberSwap had the farming pool, KNC mine, and my USDC. Can you have any suggestion for me to utilize mine? Should buy KNC and borrow mine, or swap USDC, USDT to mine? Proceed.
Yeah, I mean, also
Are you
Imran, if you wanna, you've been quiet there for for a minute or two. I don't know if you want to like chime in or go back and
All
forth.
good, all good.
Yeah, in order, like there's again a bunch of different ways that you can get my. I mean, you can borrow it from an asset like KNC, or if you've got USDC or USDT, you can swap it for some my. But again, at the end of the day, what you most likely want is to get yield, right? So if you have KNC, or if you don't have KNC and like you think that KNC is going to, go up in value, long term, then yeah, it may be a very nice move to buy some KNC, deposit it into the vault, and then borrow some MI, and with that MI go and farm something. What this means is you now own KNC. If KNC goes up in value, even though you're borrowing against it, you still realize the increase in that value, of KNC. And so what happens when it goes up in price? If, for example, KNC doubles in price, you've realized those gains. What you can do is actually borrow more against that KNC if you wanted to. So KNC doubles in price. That means that your collateral to debt ratio is now a lot higher, and so you can borrow more, which means you can farm more, and whatnot. If you've got some stables like USDC or USDT, yeah, maybe look at selling half of it for my, and then providing that as liquidity, on KyberSwap.
Yeah, and again, right? I think the point here is not to tell people to hold KNC. That's absolutely not the point. I think there are many different assets that you can use as collateral on QiDao, and you guys should absolutely look at the options and what is commensurate to your risk reward profile, right? And some people may not have a bullish outlook on KNC, and that's absolutely fine. From KyberSwap POV, what we're really concerned about is that users come in, trade, earn with us, utilize the farms, whether it's KNC or not, it doesn't really matter. Um, I think the second thing is that you guys should also take those vaults and those assets that you unlock and try out various DeFi protocols, right? And I think QiDao works with many of the top protocols as well in DeFi, not just KyberSwap. You have your Beefy and Lido and all that around. And you should try them out as well, right? I think experimentation and trying out various things is a great way for you to expose yourself to what's really out there in the market. Coming from KyberSwap, obviously, I would tell you that you should farm on KyberSwap. But really, just for the sake of users, if you want to do your duty and look around, I really recommend you experimenting with the chains, the assets that you have as on QiDao, and as well as the options out there after you take the assets. But yeah, feel free obviously to go crazy on the farms that we have, because I think the teams at QiDao and Kyber have put a lot of effort and thought into making it long term and sustainable for you guys.
Thanks, Imran. Thanks, Imran. Okay, we'll have the last question before wrapping it up. What major challenges are you facing on your DAO system? I think this question is, I say, let's Kila answer for it.
Yeah, what major challenges are you facing on your DAO system? I mean, is this in terms of, I guess, governance, like how we run the DAO, or is that kind of how you would interpret it? I guess that's maybe how I will interpret it. Yeah, in terms of being a DAO, so it's again, yeah, QiDao, we are community, community governed, and so all of the decisions that are being made will kind of run through the DAO, and the DAO will be voting on it. I mean, it's one thing is fantastic about that is that you get a bunch of a bunch of people's opinions, and they have great insight into different areas and give you really good ideas. One thing that sometimes you will see is that they don't necessarily they won't necessarily have like the full picture of what's going on beyond, like, behind the scenes. So, like, for example, as like the team may have, like, if you are creating different partnerships, but you can't necessarily announce those partnerships right then and there, and like you've taken months to develop these partnerships and whatnot, um, the community might not know it, and so they don't see everything that's going on behind the scenes, and so they may get, say, frustrated with certain elements. Or also, if prices of governance tokens drop, I think everybody, and I think we've seen this in like every Discord that we're in, people are always frustrated and think, basically, team do something, price go down. But if you look at the macro, if you look at the macro economy and everything like that, I mean, prices are just kind of the way they are. Um, and not too many things are looking, super green, I guess you could say. And so it's just, I think one of the hardest pieces is of running a DAO is just getting people to sometimes, calm down, kind of look at things holistically and not just from like a, small, like, small vantage point. Um, and yeah, I guess that'd probably be one of the challenges that we face as a DAO.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, La. And Ibra, do you want to share any information on that question?
Not much. I think Kyber has been running out DAO as well for several years now. I think we've seen a lot, right, through the couple of bear markets and blow-ups and bull runs. I think from our DAO and core user perspective, we're really concerned and we're trying to make sure that we keep a very strong core base of governance participants and core users, and really listen to them. And I think, at least for us, the compass that we have, the Northern Star, is always to make sure that we're listening to these guys through the thick and thin. And I think everything around governance is really to ensure that they have that voice and they have that ability to voice out and enact their vote as well.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. And Kila, so do you have any information to share with us? Because the main question we list before are what we plan to discuss with you. But if there's anything you'd like to talk about or what we missed, what we think could be cool to share with people listening here, please do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we went over a lot, about how QiDao and KyberSwap are kind of working. I mean, for us, we are excited to kind of keep that partnership running and see what else we're able to do there, with some of the new alpha that you guys have been dropping here. I think there's more and more conversations that will be happening in the Telegram groups,
Yes.
which is cool. Um, and yeah, I think for us, if you hadn't known about QiDao, come over into our Discord, ask questions. Kind of, you can feel free to check us out. We're on a bunch of different chains, so whatever chain that you love, most likely we're there, and you'll be able to mint on us. Try it out. You don't have to put a bunch in. Like, for example, if you're on Polygon, gas is so cheap. You can borrow $10 and just move it around and see have some fun in the DeFi space. Yeah, we're an open team. We've got great mods as well. So whatever questions you have, feel free to ask.
Okay. Yes, I have some up the unnecessary question like
Yeah.
what was it with the QiDao name, how it start, and where like are you like unbuttoned thing shirt thing is a thing?
Is my unbuttoned shirt thing a thing? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, there we go. We'll go one more nice button. So I love these type of shirts, to be honest. They're super comfortable, and I think it was one of those things where I just started. We did these fireside chats often when we first started QiDao, which I think was a great thing because one, it got our faces out there, and so people got to know the team behind it, and then also it was a great way for us to be able to introduce ourselves to larger protocols, saying like, "Hey, come on to our fireside chat. We'll get our community to know about you." And then the first few, I just randomly was wearing these type of Hawaiian shirts, and our community kept commenting on it, and so yeah, now I make an effort to wear these shirts. I also probably will need to go and get more shirts. I think I've used all my Hawaiian shirts
Okay.
up already, but yeah.
Love it,
Yeah.
love it.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so I hope that we have been able to provide some helpful insights and that you have gained a better understanding of QiDao and KyberSwap and the work that we are doing. It's been a pleasure to host the AMA today, and I would like to thank everyone for their question as well. Uh, I thank you for joining the AMAs, and I wish everyone good luck on the journey of to financial freedom. But before we say goodbye, along with this AMA, there will be more activity on our Learn to Earn Discord server, and we are more than happy to provide you with the most recent educational resources and activity. DeFi is the focus of both QiDao and KyberSwap. Therefore, we want to support you in learning more about it, how it functions, and so make sure to visit our server and QiDao server frequently because we have plenty of exciting things planned to you. Is that right, Hila?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you again, guys.
Cheers,
You want
guys.
to say anything? Yeah.
No, all good. Just remember to stay safe, guys. Check out QiDao, check out KyberSwap, jump into the community and socials, and I think that's where you'll find a great community to support the journey moving forward.
Absolutely. No, really appreciate you guys allowing me to come on.
Thank you, Kila, and
Cheers, man.
hope to
Talk
see you
soon.
soon.
Sounds
All
good.
right, that's good.